what is so special? What is that thing that is distinct about us as a people that makes us think that we should have our own country? But this is an history session. This is not a political session. So I want to put a disclaimer out there. Um, so please, because this is done in a little bit atypical way, I need reassurance to be sure that you guys can hear him, because this lecture is very important, and it was not very easy to get him here today. I have to tell you, but I'm grateful to Lodmar that is here, and everything he's saying is on record. This is authentic history. This is a history that you can count on. Forget anything you read on Twitter and any other hidden places on the internet. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth. So thank you for you guys clapping, showing that you can hear him. We are also streaming it on Clubhouse. If that's a better place for you, please go on Clubhouse and listen. It's also being streamed on YouTube. And Mr. Angela, some people are sending me a message that the YouTube is off and on. We really put the YouTube there for you guys to be able to see the slides, because if we have everybody come to Zoom session, it probably will not be the best, because the people always bump into Zoom and try to disrupt it. So sorry, we didn't mean to exclude you from the Zoom. So we're going to go back to Prof. I hope you got to get a sip of water or something. He's talking about Ile-Ife right now, and this is the first time I'm hearing this. How Ife became the center of the universe of the Yoruba people. Ife is actually Akende Gbegbon. Very, very fascinating to hear that. Again, Prof, thank you very much. We're very grateful, for your presence, and may Olodumare continue to make the work easy for you. I hope you will get to talk about the old Oyo archaeology to some degree. Maybe I'm pushing my luck, but it was a shot.
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue. And please, guys, I am not a technical person. My day job is as a physician. If you're sending me messages, I don't reply. It's not because I don't see it. I'm just afraid to touch anything because I don't want the space to go off because I pressed something. So let's go on, sir.
Thank you again for inviting me. In this segment of my talk, I will discuss Ile-Ife, how Ile-Ife developed, to illustrate the general statements I've made in the last few minutes about Yoruba political structure. And let me emphasize that I appreciate what you are doing. I appreciate that you are all here. I appreciate Yoruba First for inviting me to give this talk. I know it's not easy because of time. I travel a lot, so it took many months of back and forth before we find the time for me to join you. Not because I was ignoring you. My apologies for that. It took so long.
Not that first. The organization is Think Yoruba First.
So sorry, Think Yoruba First. Yes, thank you for that correction. Think Yoruba First. Yeah, if you don't know where you are coming from, you will not know where you are going. So that's why this interaction is very important. Now, the place that we call Ile-Ife today is not by any means the place where the idea of Yoruba kingship, Yoruba political system, Yoruba urbanism, that's not the place where it first happened. Ile-Ife is a beneficiary of political innovations that already took place or were taking place in present-day Ekiti and Igbominà areas since about 700 or 750 AD, so about 250 years, that some people have already been experimenting with this new political system that I discussed, in the previous slides, about divine kingship, about a city-state. Ile-Ife is the last of that first generation. And then it was able to take advantage of the knowledge that's already passed and then brought it all together to coalesce in what we call Yoruba civilization today. But between 700 and 1000 AD, Ile-Ife was actually occupied by scatters of what Adeobayemi called mini states or village complexes. There are 13 of them that are remembered in oral traditions in Ile-Ife. For those of you who can see my slide, they, I'm showing them here. They are all scattered around the hills. Anyone familiar with Ife will know that Ile-Ife, the city of Ile-Ife today, is actually surrounded by hills. Where Ile-Ife itself is now was a swampy area that was really not conducive for settlement by the agricultural communities that migrated there, the Yoruba who arrived there about 700 AD. They chose to live in a drier uphill below the hills. So basically they were settling down on what I would call the higher slopes below the hills surrounding Ile-Ife. Below them was very swampy. There was an aboriginal group living there, people who are like descendants of later Stone Age people who are living there. But the two of them had no problem with one another initially. The Yoruba farmers, they would trade with the aboriginal groups who are fishermen, who are hunters, who are doing minimal farming. They will exchange stuff, and maybe they even exchange partners, marry one another. Then sometime around, excuse me. Yeah. As I was trying to project my voice, I realized I'm losing my voice as well. It's okay. So that's okay. I'm a teacher, so I do this all the time. So around 1000 AD, however, just to cut the long story short, we begin to see a period of dry conditions so that rainfall declined, and then the swampy area becomes drier. Population increases around the hills of Ife meant that people were looking for new land to occupy. So we begin to see a lot of conflicts as people were jostling for new land, agricultural land, for expansion. It was in the middle of that conflict that a man that many of us refer to as Ududua began to lay claim to the swampy area that the Aboriginal group has occupied for several centuries. He built a wall there, or someone affiliated with him built a wall there, and that marked the beginning of Ile-Ife city-state. This wall was about 2 kilometers in diameter. It was not the kind of a settlement style that this region has experienced before. But with the construction of that wall also meant that a new political system was now taking place, similar to what had been going on in Ekiti and Igumino. So if Odudua was not native to Ile-Ife, he will have come from the nearby area of Ekiti or Igumina area. And then as a result of this, he and his associates eventually liquidated the older settlements that were existing on the slopes of Ife Hills and moved many of them into this new town. But some of them refused to live with him, and then some of them chose to vote with their feet. They migrated to other places. But even when they migrated, they couldn't escape this new political system, this new divine kingship system, because it became the modality of Yoruba political system soon after 1000 AD. But whatever Oduduwa origin might have been, it was not by any means the first one to initiate this. This innovation was already happening in other places. Now, so this is the oldest wall, and the palace was within it. For those of you who can see my slide, what is important is that this place grew over a very short period of time. Within a century, they were building more walls and more walls, so that by 1300 AD, Ile-Ife had become the largest metropolis in the rainforest belt of West Africa, with a population estimated between 70,000 and 105,000 by Agbaje Williams and Kusimba, based on their estimates. This makes it the largest urban center south of the Sudan, south of River Niger. This made it the magnet of economic, political, intellectual, religious, social life across what we will now refer to as Yoruba land. What Ile-Ife did that was very fascinating is that it began to reorganize the Orisha pantheon. Everyone in Yoruba region, especially in Ekiti, Gomina, they know about Orishanla already. It's not foreign to them. Orishanla was synonymous with Orisha Oke. That was not a problem. They know about Ifa already. That's not a problem. They know about many other, they know about Ishu, they know about Ogun, they know about, but Ile-Ife began to now put them together into a systematized framework of belief system. They began to now arrogate to themselves that, oh, they are the center of origin of all of these things. Now, what Ile-Ife was doing in the 13th century or 12th century, claiming to be the center of innovation and center of evolution of these deities, is what every empire in history has always done. They always try to universalize their own local experience and make it universal. I will go into that shortly. How Ile-Ife moved from being a city-state to being an empire. In fact, the first and oldest empire in Yoruba history. So one of the things that we associate with Ile-Ife, those of us who are archaeologists, is that so far it has provided the most elaborate material culture in Yoruba history. It has a vast crafts innovations that we've not seen in any other place. Its terracotta runs into hundreds that we've discovered. Brass figures runs into scores of them have been found. It's also a place where we know was producing glass, and I'm going to show that shortly. But before I show the next slide, let me quickly talk about the name of Ile-Ife itself. Ile-Ife in Yoruba epistemology is the ground zero of human origins. We always claim that Ile-Ife is not just the origin of the Yoruba people, but it's the origin of all human races. Now, that is always, as I said earlier, a mark of an imperial thinking, that your place is the center of the universe. It shows confidence, people who are sure of themselves, people who want to take on the world. Today, unfortunately, we have lost that confidence, right? We think that Jerusalem is the center of the universe. We think that Mecca is the center of the universe. We trash our own ancestral land, and we go and do pilgrimage in other people's land. Let me remind us that in the 11th, 12th, 13th century, Ile-Ife was a pilgrimage site. Other peoples across West Africa came to Ile-Ife on pilgrims. Pilgrims came to Ile-Ife. Today, we go to Mecca, we go to Medina, we go to Jerusalem. The name of Ile-Ife itself means house of abundance. In Central Yoruba dialects, actually all the way to East or War, if when you want to say a place is expanding or a place has a lot of people, you say, oh, Ube fair. How was the place? Ube fair. That is, it's a lot of abundance there. There are many people there. The Yoruba idea of space is not an empty space. A place is big only when if there are many people there. So if a 2-by-2 meter room can fit 1,000 people, the Yoruba will say, the place is big. But if a 10-by-10 meter people is empty, there's no person there, that place is small. We have to pay attention to this epistemology. So Ile-Ife means it's not a house of love, as some people would mistakenly translate it, or a house of house of love. No, it's not Ife, it is Ife, Fe, to expand. House of expansion. That is house of a place that expands is a place that attracts people. And a place that attracts people is a place where there are abundant resources. So Ile-Ife means house of abundance, house of expansion. Ile-Ife also has other nicknames. It's the city of daybreak, a place, a city of sunrise, a place of civilization. So Ile-Ife attained all these monikers because of its a source of Yoruba classical civilization. The Yoruba, as we know the Yoruba today, Ile-Ife was central to defining what we call Yoruba today. Ile-Ife was a cosmopolitan city. The classical Ile-Ife between 1000 and 1400 AD. It attracted a diversity of people and skills, typical of any city in the world. Its elaborate arts and crafts was second to none in the history of Africa, south of the Sahara. It was a center of innovation and technology, especially in iron and glass production. Many of us may not realize that people of Ile-Ife were actually producing titanium-enriched iron as early as 12th and 13th century AD. That is a feat that we are still struggling in Nigerian state to match. Many of us do not know that Ile-Ife so far is the only place we know of outside the Nile Valley to produce glass. Something that many African societies have not really accomplished. Ile-Ife was a center of learning. Learning in those days meant that there are different schools of Orisha in Ile-Ife that people would travel to from Benin to Atakpame in Togo. People came to Ile-Ife to learn about the ways of the Orisha, the ways how to understand the world beyond your own local environment. It was also a commercial center. It was a holy city, as I said before, that attracted pilgrims. These are some of the sculptures that archaeologists and the other people have discovered in Ile-Ife, and I will just quickly go through because not all of us can see these slides, so I'm not going to spend time on them. Just show different things. I hope people who are going to go on YouTube will eventually see these slides. Yeah, don't let me spend time. And then now I've shown terracotta. Now I'm showing copper alloys sculptures, making Yoruba perhaps their accomplishments in copper alloy sculptures again was second to none, because they were able to make brass figures, of almost pure copper, an achievement that was not attainable. Whether you're talking about the Chinese metalwork, Greek metalwork, or Italian metalwork, they couldn't make sculpture of this elaborate nature with almost pure copper. Pure copper is difficult to work with, but if people achieve that, okay. See, Okay, let me continue my talk by saying that, as I said, Ile-Ife was the last or the youngest of the first generation of city-states, but it became the leader. How was it able to achieve that? It was able to provide ideological coherence for this idea of divine kingship. It was able to theorize and universalize the Orisha pantheon. Before, every kingdom or every city or every town has its own set of Orisha. Ile-Ife said, no, everything that you have came from us. That's not true, of course, but they have to use that as a strategy of dominance. And I will explain why they have to do that. They also became, what actually made Ile-Ife to attain this power was, it became the place that started to legitimize the instrument of divine kingship. Let's think about that for a moment. The idea of divine kingship did not come from Ile-Ife, but Ile-Ife became the place that was legitimizing divine kingship, giving other kings the authority, the legitimacy to become king. How was that possible? Because
I'm sure people are going to have questions about that.
Yes,
you know?
yes, because Ile-Ife domesticated and nationalized the instrument of divine kingship. And that divine kingship, the material of it, the material basis of it are the beads. What you see, for you to claim that you have attained immortality when you are still alive, you have to show evidence for it, either through your sartorial splendor or through other things that you may have, all right, that other people do not have. And I'll go to that. You see, let me read this quote to you. That way, that can set the stage for the next segment of my talk. Divine kingship ideology must be materialized for it to attain acceptance by the people. According to Timothy Hall, he said, the transformation of ideas into physical reality can take the form of ceremonial events, symbolic objects, monuments, and writing. Either way, it is the process by which culture is created, codified, and contained. Ideas unconnected to the objects of the world have no means of being communicated, experienced. Ideas must be materialized to become social, to become cultural things. So this idea of divine kingship, for it to take ground and to be accepted by the people, it must be materialized. So the question is, how did these early kings materialize what they were claiming to be? They materialized it by wearing beads that were external, that were foreign. They were actually using a lot of Kaseni beads, which were being brought in from what is now Upper Niger, a place called Lafia, Upper Niger. That's where they were bringing them. You see, so that the possession of these beads means that the person has died and has resurrected. So wearing these beads is crucial to claiming to be another, claiming to be a king, claiming to have divine powers. So that's why when you see several sculptures in Ile-Ife, you will see elaborate regalia of beads. It's called, that is what materializes divinity for those kings. Sorry, yes. So, and what Ife did was this. Before Ife came to the picture, these early kingdoms were buying Kaseni beads, what we call akun, from places like Birini, Lafia in the Upper Niger, after Busa, after Niki, after River Mushi. That's where these beads were coming from. They were stone beads, but they were special stone beads. They were red. They were very attractive, very polished, but they were very rare and very expensive. what if it did that no other state in West Africa ever accomplished was if political leaders began to make their own bids. They were not making their bids from the same bids that were coming from upper Niger. They were making glass beads. And they began to use these glass beads as the means of legitimizing political power. Now, Kaseni beads were scarce. They were rare. They were not abundant. If it created mass consumption, many of us who study capitalism knows what that means, right? We live in it. Because this is not beads that were based on what is available in nature. There were things that they were producing with raw materials. Elaborate recipes were being brought together to produce glass. By the way, glass is always one of those markers of high civilization. And Ile-Ife used this glass technology to create what I call technological nationalism. They began to claim that if indeed you are a king and you are immortal, then you should be wearing shaggy, which is the blue beads, or iyun, which is the red beads, red glass beads. Iyun looks like akun, but they're different materials, but they look alike. Iyun became very important because it looks like what the society was familiar with, right, before. But if they couldn't, they couldn't make akun because they don't have abundant stones to make akun. So instead, they were making iyun. So by making materials that legitimize divine kingship readily available, in a controlled volume, it allowed divine kingship to proliferate in Yoruba land. And Ile-Ife became the place where you rely on to acquire your iyun and shegi. It did not shut the door to the importation of akun, but akun stopped being the essential ingredient of divine kingship. And also, Ile-Ife could produce shegi and akun in larger quantity than akun. Now, until about 7 years ago, many of us were told and we thought that the glass beads that we are finding in Ile-Ife were actually made from recycled glass that were brought from the Mediterranean. How else could it be? Don't we always buy recycled and used goods in post-colonial, colonial, post-colonial Africa? Is that not how we live our lives? Imported stuff and then we turn them into something else. So when I was in school, if that's what we were taught, and in my early publications, that's what I said. Oh yeah, if people are bringing in recycled glass, was contemporary. What is happening there? Sorry, so there's an echo. Or Yoruba glass, as far as present-day Mali, which used to be part of the Ghana Empire. We find Ife glass as far as Niger Republic, Mauritania, as far as Igbo in eastern Nigeria. Why do we call it Yoruba glass? Because in these places we have high lime, high aluminum glass. My argument today would be that Ile-Ife used its glass beads as the first currency produced by an indigenous culture in West Africa, if not in Africa, outside the Nile Valley. It uses as money to trade, to acquire other things, such as brass, as well as salt and silk. Of course, glass beads were not the only things that Ile-Ife sold to his neighbors. As far as Mali Empire and Ghana Empire, they also exchanged kola nuts, possibly exchanged ivory, because the fame of Ile-Ife reached the Mediterranean world. A 1375 Spanish trademark, which I'm showing on my slide here, known as the Catalan Atlas, refers to the king of Ile-Ife as Rey de Ogana. Why do we think he's referring to Ife here? Because Rey in Spanish means king of. Rey Ogana is easily related to Ogene, which is again another an ancient Yoruba term, which is Oni. Or Oni is what is, the transliteration of Oni is what we call Ogene. That is kind of, it's not loud. It's more like what you pronounce with your labia, Ogene, Oni. And the elephant there shows the ivory trade, ivory that is coming from the rainforests of West Africa, including Ile-Ife, all the way to the Mediterranean. Okay, so this city has a very wide circulation and knowledge in the 14th century. And this is where I argue in my book that, contrary to the idea that Ile-Ife was a city-state, that we need to begin to move away from that characterization. And I want to give Professor Adebanje Akintoye credit for mentioning this in his book, that Ile-Ife was actually an empire. Initially, I wrote a note, on that book when I first read it in 2010, that this is not true. But when I began to do my own research, all the evidence aligned to confirm Akintoye's statement that Ile-Ife was an empire. Ile-Ife was an empire based on its technology, based on its ability to legitimize divine kingship in other parts of Yoruba land. It was not an empire so much of military conquest as it was an empire of ideology. It was able to win over many people to its side because it has what other people did not have and which they desired. They wanted glass. They wanted glass beads. So it was able to establish a commercial network, a political network, a religious network that stretched across many parts, but not all parts of present-day Yoruba-speaking region, as far as even Edo land, because the Benin royal line today traces, whether they like it or not, their ancestry to Ile-Ife. Okay, so, and they were able to establish vast commercial networks all the way to the middle Niger Delta, present-day Mali Republic. They were, of course, when needed, they also used military stick, but they established colonies about 10, 40 to 100 kilometers from the metropolis itself. They created dependencies. They created client states such as Owu Kingdom. Many of us may not know this. Owu Kingdom, the oldest Owu Kingdom, was not in the rainforest. It was somewhere between present-day Shaki and Kishi. That's where the first Owu Kingdom was. They established these tributaries, client states, dependencies, colonies, stretching about 100 kilometers from Ile-Ife itself. That was the first empire in Yoruba land. An empire that was built on technological nationalism, that was built on commercial prowess, that was built on spiritual innovations, and also that was built on this idea of abundance, that Ile-Ife is a place of abundance. Of course, the second empire of Yoruba land will not show up until late 16th century, and that is Oyo Empire. I don't think time permits me to talk about Oyo Empire. Maybe another talk. I will certainly give you more on that, since I'm actually working on Oyo Ile itself now, which is the center of the capital of Oyo Empire between 1570 and 1836. So I will stop there. And I know I said I would speak for 40 minutes, but I've spoken now for maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes. I don't know.
I was laughing to myself when you said 45 minutes, because I just can't imagine that you're going to do that in 45 minutes. So, but very fascinating. Thank you very much again, Professor. Great work. Truly, truly appreciated. We cannot thank you enough. And I am looking forward to the Oyo Empire discussion, because recently some people has been showing some mischievous map about the Sokoto Caliphate, and they included Oyo there as part of the case. But we know what that's all about. Yeah. I'm going to allow the audience to bring their questions. Because the reason why we're here is because of other people. Please, speakers, if anybody have questions, the people that are in Clubhouse, kindly bring your question. I am not able to go to Clubhouse because I don't want to cause any disruptions. For our folks that are in Clubhouse, please come on into the Twitter space and bring those questions to me so I can ask the prof. Mr. Ifadare, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go on, sir.
Oh, yes, I just have a quick question. First and foremost, I want to thank our amiable professor for coming on this platform to speak to us. Personally, I've benefited tremendously from your lecture. So I appreciate your coming on this platform. My question, earlier you talked about duality that exists between divine kinship and urbanism. Can you expatiate further on that? Because I want to understand that duality and where the divine kinship, where it originated and when it originated. Thank you.
Should I take this question one at a time? Oh,
we can make a stack. We can make a stack. Does anybody else have a question for Prof? Unfortunately, we're on several platforms, so
yeah, okay.
They could be asking questions somewhere else that I don't even know. I will encourage you guys. I'm not looking at other places. I'm only looking at Twitter. The people that are in the other space, can you please bring their questions here? You can continue answering that one.
Okay, let me answer this one. Yeah, yes. Thank you for that question. Yeah. So what I was trying to pass across is that when we talk of Yoruba classical civilization, which is what my study is about, we always see that Yoruba are very urbanized. I mean, you know, their political system, which is the theme of today's talk, is about building cities, building kingdoms. So city-state is very important to Yoruba culture. And that city-state, I said that it comprises of two things, first and foremost. That is, of course, a city, I mean, urban center or a town, and divine kingship. That the king is a divine entity is very central to the way the Yoruba conceptualize their city-state. So that duality, I said, I argue in my book that it began to evolve in the area around Ekiti and Igbominon, sometime around 750 AD. That's where we begin to see some resemblance of that political system. There is an ancient kingdom known as Oba Kingdom, which is now defunct. It's no longer existing. Between southern Igbominon and Ekiti, it's a very large kingdom. One thing we should bear in mind is that several of the kingdoms that are existing today, they are not as old as other kingdoms, and that there were ancient kingdoms that did not survive into the present. Idoko is another one that was very, very mighty in the past, but by about 1300, they disappeared. Archaeologists are still struggling to account for them. So it was around Igbominon Ekiti that this idea of urbanism and divine kingship began to take shape, and then from there began to spread to other areas, including Ile-Ife. But my point is that Ile-Ife then succeeded in standardizing and providing what I call epistemological clarity for what a city-state should look like. That it should be a commercial center. It's not just a political center. It must also be a commercial center. It must be a place of innovation, which is represented in Ile-Ife with the innovation or invention of glass that became central to why Ile-Ife succeeded in dictating the terms for divine kingship after 1100 AD. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question. So I have a question here.
Okay.
The person says, okay, whoever you are that opens your mic, please mute yourself because I can hear echo. They said, you said that glass was used as currency.
Yes.
Their question is, were they in measured form? So that's one question. Mr. Father something, Father Abraham, you can open your mic and ask your questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Professor. I really appreciate this. I stumbled upon this space, and I will say I'm glad to be here. So, sir, actually, I'm from Ekiti State, and I've been trying to find a lot of information about my state and pre-Ojujua, majorly the pre-Ojujua time in Ife land as a whole. So now I joined the space, I think maybe 40 minutes or 50 minutes ago. So I've been trying to listen. Maybe you speak about the Ugumekun. I know you will understand that. The Ugumekun kingdom, or should I say entity. Then there is this particular person, Orofe. I don't know, maybe I'm getting the pronunciation.
Oranfe.
Orofe.
Oranfe.
Now, I know that this person, we don't have him. He's not usually mentioned in our history. Everything is about Ojujua downwards like that. But
I think he's having a signal.
I had my okay. Are you getting me?
Go on.
Yeah. Go on.
So, speak about Orofe, then these delights that we usually talk.
I'm sorry, I'm losing you. I cannot. We are breaking up.
About all these.
Okay, I think we got your question, Father Abraham. Can you mute yourself?
I just need to relate that to him.
Yeah, you said something about Oramfe, and that no, they don't talk about Oramfe. They talk about Oduduwa. Yeah, he heard you.
At the time, then all this if you die, the time, all this Oduduwa time. We want to know much about this.
Okay, thank you. Prof, do you just want to take those two, or can I?
Yes, let me take both.
Okay.
Yeah, the first question about whether I'm making a claim now that Ile-Ife actually developed a currency that was based on shaggy glass beads, especially because if I produce shaggy, that is the blue glass in larger quantity than any other bead. And when I was writing my book, I was reluctant at that point to make that claim because I didn't want to change. I didn't want to be that wrong. I wanted to be right. So I restrained myself to make that claim. But 2 years since I published the book and I continue to do research, I realized that I should have made that claim. So now I'm ready to stick my neck out to say that, in fact, Ile-Ife developed a currency out of its glass beads. And how do we know that? When you look at the way the Yoruba treated cowrie shells, which we used as currency starting from about 16th century, you will notice that the Yoruba are the only ones in West Africa. Other cultures also used cowrie shells, but they are the only ones that standardized cowries by stringing cowries by putting cowries into strings, so that in the multiples of 40, everything is in multiples of 40 as currency. And that practice will have been influenced by the stringing of beads, of glass beads. The Hausa also used cowries as their currency in the 16th, 17th, 18th century. The Igbos, the Benin, every group did, but none placed cowries in that kind of format. And so now I will argue that the reason why the Yoruba were doing that is because they already had a system of currency based on stringing of beads. So the only way that glass beads will have circulated widely across West Africa was by using it as currency. The Yoruba will not be the only ones here. If you go to East Africa, the Swahili of East African coast also use imported glass beads as currency. So that is the but because we have disadvantage of lack of written sources when we are talking about Yoruba, many African histories, we have to be patient to look for evidence in other sources. And I suspect that if we pay attention carefully to Ifa literary corpus, we will likely eventually find the evidence there about the measurements for glass beads as currency. Now, going to the second question, yes, Igumekun shows up a lot in early Yoruba history. There is an Igumekun in Akure. There is one in the outskirts of present-day Ile-Ife. Maybe there's another one in Ekiti. It's a popular market site that seems to have replicated itself in different parts of Yoruba land. Ekiti is a place that is waiting to be discovered. What do I mean by that? The role of Ekiti state, or what we call Ekiti state today, or the Ekiti people, their role in the history of Yoruba land is understudied and not well known. But all the evidence is pointing to Ekiti region as a place of, as a foundation for classical Yoruba civilization. If you look at Ifa literary corpus, for example, you will notice that, if you pay attention to it, you will notice that the Ekiti region has a disproportionate presence in Ifa literary corpus. Why? Many ancient kingdoms in Ekiti, some of them which are not even no longer existing, are mentioned in Ifa literary corpus, because Ekiti region is the place where most of the standardization of Ifa took place before Ile-Ife appropriated it. So it's therefore important for those of us who are cultural historians, who are archaeologists, to pay attention to Ekiti. In fact, no single major archaeological research has been undertaken in Ekiti that focus on the period that I'm covering here, 750 to 1400 AD. No single research has been done in Ekiti. So many of us have the plan to initiate the research in Ekiti. And for those of you who are listening to me, who are connected to government, with the government of Ekiti State, I encourage you to convince the government of Ekiti State to invite archaeologists like me and other people. It doesn't have to be me, it could be other people, to begin to work in Ekiti, so that we can truly understand the role of Ekiti in the formative stage of Yoruba history. So you will notice there are several names in Ile-Ife, like Oranfe. You call it Oranfe. I suspect that Oranfe is actually an adaptation, not of Oranfe. It is possible that Ile-Ife's Oranfe actually came from Ekiti, Oranfe. But we will not know the direction of this borrowing until we begin to study it. So I will argue that Oranfe and Oranfe, they are the same. Oranfe is actually Oran of Ife. That's what it means. So we have a lot to learn about Yoruba history, and Ekiti promises us a lot of innovations and a lot of information about the foundation of Yoruba history.
Thank you, Prof. A lot of people have questions. Please be patient. Hopefully we can still have about 45 minutes to an hour with the Prof, if he doesn't mind. Please take a sip of water, because we're just getting started with questions. So there are some questions that are not button question, and I'm going to just leave them for now to come later. Yoruba technology, very, very fascinating, very fascinating. And kudos to you and your colleague for the work that you did to actually tell us exactly that the materials that was used to make the Yoruba bead, the glass bead, they were totally different. And you found this material in Ile-Ife. And I don't know where I saw it, maybe when if came to the site or something. He said that they were only found in Yoruba land. Is that correct?
Correct.
So great. But this is the thing. One day I was going around one of the museums here in the US, looking at some of the Native Americans artifacts. And they have the beads there, the glass beads. The history of these glass beads was that the Native Americans were getting these glass beads from the Europeans. So it just baffles me, like, is there any proof that when the Europeans were first trading with the Yorubas, they were getting glass beads from us? And somehow this glass bead was being used as a means of transactions with the Native Americans. I don't know, it's just a thought. And I don't even know the component of the glass beads that they were giving to the Native Americans, I have to say. But they look very much like the shaggy to me, if you would ask me. You know, the distinct blue color of those glass beads, of the beads there. So people like to say that what technology, this is something that always breaks my heart when you hear the young ones, especially, they say this: Yoruba did not develop anything. You guys did nothing. You did not know anything. Why is it that everything you make, it's the Europeans that made it? You didn't make anything. You didn't make any guns. They make guns. They make the cars. They make all this. They make all that. So you talk about the metallurgical skills of the Yoruba,
Yes.
and we all see up to today the Agbede. You can still go there and see that this is technology that these people are doing. They just need to convert it into a machinery process, to a mechanized process. And I was talking to Professor Wande, who is one of our patrons actually in Think Yoruba First, one day, and he told me that, do you know that the technology that was used by the Yoruba to extract the metals, that technology, that one of the people that was very aware of the technology visited the site that they were trying to do metal extraction in Yoruba land today, as in under Nigeria, and he said that they will never get any metal with the way they were doing it, because the way that they even do it in the Yoruba way, their method was proven, their method was effective. They always extract metal, but the way that they are doing it there now in Ajokuta or whatever, that they will never produce any metal there. And till today, they didn't produce any metal. So can you please, maybe it's another session to really maybe let people know that your ancestors were not, because people just think that we were just, I don't even know what they think, to be frank. They didn't think we achieved anything. So Yoruba technological skills, I think we need to spend a little bit more time on that, for people to know that every stage of what we call science today start from somewhere before it's now a big thing. Okay, somebody was talking about so the Native American question and the metal thing, that's just probably just a comment. My question is, okay, I'm going to reserve one of my last questions. I have 3 questions. Somebody was asking about Benin. Can you just mute yourself, Femi, and ask that question, because I can't go to the chat to read the question. Femi?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Can you put your hands down?
Oh, okay. I think it's down already. So thank you very much. I've been listening attentively. So I wanted to ask my question. I don't know if anybody has asked. Is Benin a Yoruba empire?
Thank you so much for that question. Is that it?
This is the hot topic.
Well, I mean that could be another topic, but I think it's a very simple, it's a very important question, but the answer is very straightforward. Benin was part of Ife Empire. There's no doubt about that. I remember I taught at the University of Benin briefly before I came to the US, and I was associated with people in the Palace of Benin. One thing that people today may not realize, or maybe they even lost that, is that when I was in Benin, within the Benin Palace, they spoke 2 languages. They spoke Yoruba and they spoke Edo. Let's think about that. They spoke Yoruba and they spoke Edo. I'm talking about early 90s, 1990, 91, 92, 93. No one in the palace had any doubt about the Yoruba ancestry. of the kings of Benin. The Oba dynasty is a Yoruba dynasty. So it was Benin. So in my book, for example, those who have read it will realize that Benin was integral to my book, because I cannot write a complete Yoruba history without Benin in it. The same way that no one can write the history of Edo people without Yoruba in it. The two people are connected. We are integrated. There's no doubt about that. Eventually, Benin Empire developed after Ife collapsed. Ife Empire declined, like every empire does, right? Ife Empire declined towards the end of the 14th century, and by 1420, the empire was just was no more. But Ile-Ife, as a city, continued to thrive. I mean, depressed, but still there. And then Ewuare the Great seized the opportunity to began to develop Benin as an expansionist state. So Benin also eventually had an inroad into Yoruba-speaking area. As far as Akure, Ado-Ekiti, for example, was a colony of Benin, but they never had any problem in recognizing that the political leadership of Benin has Yoruba origins. That's not an issue. It's only nowadays that because of the contraption of that we call Nigeria, people are trying to make claims that are totally outside the bounds of history. That's okay. So that's the short answer to your question. Benin was part of Ife, not Yoruba Empire, but I would say Ife Empire. Now, to the first comments about beads that were found in museums in the US, that's Native American beads that were bought or supposedly bought from Europeans. I don't know specifically the case you are referring to, but I can share this with you that when the Portuguese arrived in the Battle of Benin, present in Nigeria, Benin Republic, in the 15th century, they had very little of their own materials to sell to Africans. So they were actually buying shegi from the Shekiri from the Benin. They would buy the shegi. Shegi was in high demand as far as Ghana, Gold Coast. So they were as far as Central Africa, what is now what used to be Congo Kingdom. So the Portuguese will buy shegi from Benin, from Ijebu, Jebode, from Ishekiri, and they will sell it. They will ply it to Ghana, present-day Ghana. They will take it to Central Africa, and some of them went to Brazil as well, from where the Dutch took it to New Netherlands or Dutch in New York. So if shegi from Yoruba land came to the New World, but until we do chemical analysis of the beads you find in the museum, we will not know exactly where they are from. However, let me make it clear that Europeans also produced blue beads. They may not be shaggy. What makes it shaggy is because it's dichroic. You see, the materials that the Yoruba use for making glass, pegmatite, has a lot of mica in it. So they transmit different colors depending on the light exposure you put them through. And that is the source of the magic of Yoruba glass, that it transmits different color depending on the light exposure. So people find it to be magical, people find it to be attractive, and people find it to just be wonderful. Let me put it that way. just splendor. You know, that how can an object transmit different color? So because it has a lot of mica, and Europeans did not know why. This Yoruba glass is dichroic. So you look at one glass bead, on one side of the light is showing you blue, another side is showing you green. Yeah, because it has a lot of mica in it. It's only nowadays that those of us studying this chemistry begin to understand that. Another reason that why Yoruba glass is very, very valuable is no matter how long Yoruba glass is in the soil, when you excavate it, you don't need to treat it in any way. It looks like rock. It's very, it doesn't disintegrate like the soda lime glass of the Greeks or the Egyptian. You don't need to conserve it. It is as solid as rock because it is actually rock because it is made from pegmatite. But the use of snail shell as part of the recipe also contributes to the strength of the glass, and that's why it has elevated lime. Snail shell is the source of that lime. Of course, adding lime to it brings down the melting temperature, because if you don't add snail shell to it, you will need about 2000 degrees centigrade. No civilization in the past was able to reach that level of melting point. So by adding snail shell to it, you bring down the melting point to 700 degrees. Wow. But there's another advantage to that, is that it stabilizes the melting pegmatite. It strengthens it. So no matter how long it has been in the soil, it stays solid like rock. So Europeans did not know why, and they couldn't replicate that kind of glass. They tried, they couldn't. So they were reduced to basically buying Ife glass and redistributing it across West Africa, because they realized that people have had demands for that kind of glass, not the European imported glass. Beats. But as the supply ended, because if they stopped producing that kind of glass, as the supply declined, then it gave way for Europeans to sell their own glass beads. So that is the a long answer to your question.
To my observation. Anyway, thank you. There's some other questions here. Please, you guys sending me something by email. I don't want to push anything. You're in the audience. Come up, open your mic and ask questions. Please, I don't want to do anything that will make the space to end, if you know what I mean. I'm really struggling here. I have a question here from Michael, our professor. And he said, how were this knowledge lost? Was it through the war? Was it through colonization? Or because we just became nonchalant as a people? He also said, how do we convince our people of, I think it's a little similar to what I was trying to say. How do we convince our people of these thousands of years of history to propel them to aim higher beyond our current limited reality? Those are two questions from Michael. I also got a question from Are Kurumi, is our president in Think Yoruba First, but for some reason, I think he couldn't talk in this space. He said something about the Nigerianization of Yoruba history. It's becoming, I don't even know how to describe it. For example, some people recently make a big splash on the internet that Moremi was in Nigeria. Oduduwa was in Nigeria. Amala is a Nigerian food. These, it's like a cultural assassination. And he wondered whether he could sue these people for cultural, I don't know if you're the right person to ask that. Like, can it be sued for cultural appropriation? Because it's almost like a complete destruction of a people. Because Moremi, the place Moremi holds in Yoruba history, is second to none. And Oduduwa. And then for somebody to now come and say, now that is the Nigerian, and they're just saying it challengingly, and people are laughing about it, and some people believed it. So I think he's frustrated with that. those are two questions that I got from him. So let's just stop there and have you respond then. Maybe we take 2-3 more questions and let you go rest because it's been a long day. I understand.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this question. They are very important questions. Well, how was this knowledge lost? Well, the Yoruba said that in our own case, our Babalawo stop divining every 5 days, and therefore we lost a lot of things. I mean, that is a metaphor of discontinuity. The knowledge of if glass, for example, yes, we lost it. We lost it because with the decline of the empire and the decline of Ife, the first Ife in the 14th century, that technology did not survive. However, nowadays, my student Tony Babalola and other people, they were trying to reconstruct that technology. I've contributed to that as well. This is the kind of story that we need to teach in the classrooms across Nigeria, but mostly in Yoruba-speaking area. But I think this is not a Yoruba story only. This is an African story. This is a story that we should even be teaching in the inner cities in America to Black students as well, and to everybody who cares about knowing the truth about African history. So this is a universal story that should be told. But when you live in a geographical space where we import toothpick, we import everything, and to legitimize that, you are being taught in school that your ancestors have produced nothing, and that you came from Mecca, Medina, and you came from Jerusalem. Of course, all of these things have meanings and connections. So we therefore we don't teach it to our children. So now we have about 3 generations of Nigerians who know nothing about their pre-colonial African history. Okay, so in that kind of geographical space where history is not taken seriously, it's not surprising that we are lost. So the question is, if you have people who really care in a democracy, we do not have to teach the same thing in Nigerian schools. Nothing stops Yoruba-speaking states in emphasizing, providing facilities for the true Yoruba history to be taught in schools. Nothing stops the governors and legislators in appropriating money to provide teachers with a training on how to teach Yoruba history properly. We have books that can be turned into textbooks for elementary schools as well as high school students, for university students. It is our own fault. We cannot blame imaginary federal government for that. We have governors, elected governors. We have commissioners of education in Lagos State, or your state, Osun State, Ekiti State. That is their job. So the knowledge was lost because of lack of continuity in our own educational system. But this is not difficult to turn around. You can do that. So the result is that we try to Nigerianize things, right? I don't know how. Yeah, Moremi did not live in Nigeria. Ududua did not live in Nigeria. For example, I don't claim what I study as Nigerian studies. I claim what I study as Yoruba studies, because the period I study is outside the boundaries of Nigeria. Okay, the Yoruba that I study in the 19th century, they did not live in Nigeria. In the 11th century, they did not live in Nigeria. So, we anyway, let me stop there. So I don't go.
I got you, sir. I understand. Thank you very much for even going there at all. Okay, let's go to Yoruba Goddess. Yoruba Goddess,
Hello. First of all, I want to thank Prof for coming to the space and giving an amazing lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been listening off and on, but I was very interested in what you were saying about the beads and the fact that the Yoruba made glass and then created it into beads. And I just did a quick search online, and I actually realised that some of these beads are actually in the British Museum, but they're not being shown. So yeah, that was quite sad that I can't see it up close and personal, and especially since I believe you said it's something that we don't produce anymore. The other point was, I was actually looking at Amazon to try and get your book, but it's out of stock. So please, can you make it available for us in the UK? Can buy it. It's temporary unavailable. Maybe it's just sold out.
In the UK. That's a shame.
And another thing, Prof, is that there is no electronic version of that book.
They sell it on Kindle. It's on Kindle, right?
It's on Kindle?
Yeah. There's a Kindle version of the book.
Okay, I think there's no audible version of it.
Oh, okay. Oh no, there's no audio. There's no audio version of it.
Yoruba Goddess, are you done with your questions?
So I guess the other question, just to finish, is that obviously our language is really important. You talked about the importance of language and how that differentiates us as an ethnic group. Particularly in my case, I mean, I was born in the UK, so my parents they didn't teach me Yoruba, although I understand it. And I've heard stories that in the next 25 years our language could disappear. I just wanted to hear your thoughts around that. Given the importance and the idea of self-preservation of culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions and your comments and thank you for bringing to my knowledge that my books are sold out in the UK. I'm on Amazon UK, but on Amazon US it's available. I don't know how we can get this Amazon UK to begin to get supplies from their sister company in the US so that they can ship them to the UK and continue to sell there. I would certainly tell Indiana University Press to look into that. So thank you. About language. Language is critical to what I do. Without my firm grasp of Yoruba language, I would not have been able to do the research that I did, and I would not have written this book the way I've written it. Language is critical to whether it is written down or not. Language is critical to understanding the mindset of a people. And yes, in Yoruba speaking area today, in Nigeria, especially in Nigeria, we are making a big mistake, thinking that our children somehow will lose something if they do not learn Yoruba and all they do is be monolingual. And I always remind people that, in fact, students do better in English when they are well grounded in their own native language first. My first language is Yoruba. I was born in Ibadan, and I did not have the privilege of parents speaking English to me, thank God, in my early years. So I still speak my English with some accent, but that's the way it is. That's the way Chinese do it. That's the way Japanese do it. That's the way Spanish speakers do it. So why should it be different from Yoruba? That's what Germans do. They speak English with accent, despite the fact that the two languages come from the same source. So we are running the problem in Nigeria today that our middle class friends, family members, and colleagues, they are not speaking Yoruba to their children. And those children, therefore, they are Yoruba only in name. They are not Yoruba in culture. They are not Yoruba in thinking. They are not Yoruba in attitude. And that is not good if you're trying to build a community. We cannot build. What we have left today in Yoruba, let me be blunt, is language. We are no longer Yoruba in religion. Okay? Most of us are doing other religions. That's okay. So what will be the common thing that unites Yoruba people is language. And when we lose that, let's face it, we lose our culture. So I don't know whether in 25 years, I don't know whether less than that, but this should be treated with urgency, that Yoruba language must not only be required in school from from kindergarten to high school, because for some children, that may be the only place where they will learn Yoruba, because their parents they think they've evolved, right? And therefore Yoruba is no longer important. I get students from Nigeria who come to the US to study in my university, and in the university where it is required that no matter what your language is, you must also take second language. So many Americans who speak English must take Spanish or take French or something. Nigerian students will come, of course, they speak English and they don't want to do Spanish, because that will add another year to their student career, and then they want to undercut and say, oh, I speak Yoruba. I say, okay, sit down and do the test. I will test you. If you don't pass, then go and take Yoruba. I teach Yoruba, so come and take it. The same way other students take it. Hello, then they start crying. Oh, that will give me extra year. Hey, no, sorry. I wish your parents did well with you in Nigeria by teaching you. How do you come from Lagos and tell me that you don't speak Yoruba? And so we need to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shola, do you want to speak? You came on stage.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, sir. Please go on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. And to all those who put together this space, I want to acknowledge that you've done something really great. And well, I'll use my influence to invite as many people as possible. Mine is not a question, just a suggestion. I have the Prof imploring people that they should impress it on the state government to sponsor some research on the civilization around ATT. But I think we should start looking at alternative means of finding funding for very important research like this. And I want to recommend, there are a lot of tools these days. I want to recommend that a crowdfunding platform could be utilized and people invited, to contribute to funding this kind of research, because it goes beyond government. It's really at the center of who we are, and all of us will be interested. And I'm sure, a lot of money could be raised if the proposal is put together and a crowdfunding platform is set up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Baba. Thank you. You talk about funding, so let me just use the opportunity to announce our funding platform. We have a funding organization called the Yoruba National Fund. I will encourage everybody to Google them. They are not your typical all these Yoruba funds. You don't see them on social media and all of this. But what it is a wealth fund for the Yoruba people. Think Yoruba First is a Yoruba nationalist organization. Our goal in life as an organization is to make sure that we have the Yoruba country reemerge from where she's currently buried. And as efforts towards that, the Yoruba National Fund is a sister organization to Think Yoruba First, a well-trusted organization. They have been in existence longer than Think Yoruba First has been. your fund is secured. If you want to donate there, we encourage you to make a pledge, to make it a commitment, no matter how little it is. Like the project you're talking about, Baba Sholari, funds, the Yoruba National Fund is created purposefully for special projects like that, in addition to a wealth fund for a sovereign Yoruba country in the future. But unfortunately, so many Yoruba sons and daughters, they're not aware of it. So check them out. If we want to see a difference, I'm going to allude to what you said, Professor Wade, one of my mentors. I'm also have to give him credit again. He said that if you want to do anything in the Yoruba space, you have to do it yourself. This is what he said. When he was working towards Ifa University to preservation of Ifa as a Yoruba intellectual heritage, there were oppositions from the federal government of Nigeria. And at that point, the president was a Yoruba person. And they did not support that project. So he had to fund it on his own and seek private donors, just like you said. It is my hope that if we are able to build the Yoruba National Fund successfully, we can actually start to implement things that we wanted to see as an example, just to prove to people that we can do it. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay, let's take a couple more questions. Ogo Adulawo. I love that name. And he has your book on his DP, Prof.
Wow, that's great.
Ogo Adulawo, please go on, sir.
Thank you very much, ma. Thank you, Prof. This is my, it's a privilege listening to you again. We hosted you in Yoruba Nation Clubhouse one time. That was when you introduced the book. And I got it immediately. I also got 2 copies for members of my Yoruba Nation team too. And I'm also ready to get an additional copy for anyone that is interested, because for me, right, after reading this book, I think it's a book that everyone that has just a pint of Yoruba blood in you should have. Even if you don't read it yourself, your children might lay their hands on it one day and read it. So I'll quickly want to go to my question, Prof. So my first question has to do with what the host mentioned earlier regarding some kind of narratives. And the one that even struck me most, that I want you to, even though you've explained a bit of it in your book, but I also want you to mention it on this page, is the history of Lagos. We've read so many things that Lagosians actually happens to be migrants from Maiduguri. We read it's even on this Twitter space. So I can even pull the tweet up explaining how migrants from Maiduguri actually are the first settlers in Lagos State. So I wanted to kind of explain that to us as well. And in addition, from your because I've seen that you've done extensive work on the history of Yoruba along your archaeological, profession too. So, and the reason why your work is unique to me is because you don't only go by the history, you also back it up, like you said in our Clubhouse program, that you also try to back the history up with physical archaeological evidences, which is unique to me.
Can you speak louder a little bit?
Okay, thank you, madam. Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
I think it's a little bit louder now.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I also want you to kind of tell us, for us, the generation that didn't have the privilege of knowing the pre-colonial Yoruba history, what are the 2 things from your own experience in your works? What are the 2 things that you advise us to focus on in order for us to be able to decolonize ourselves from the Nigerian history and be able to see the Yoruba history for what it is? What are the two basic things that you want us to maybe focus on, or to be able to take away from our mindset for us to be able to see Yorubas for who they are? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, my brother, for coming on this program and for supporting this book. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your good comments. Let me start with the Lagos story. You know, I'm on several social media, and I'm always depressed to see that things are not improving. I wrote this book partly to make sure that I use what I know based on my research to correct some of the misinformation that were out there 10 years ago. And I realized that no matter what you do, people will want to perpetuate lies. And the reason why it's only people who want to control you will be insistent in perpetuating propaganda to serve their own interest. However, shame on those people who should know better, who they are deceiving. Because when Yoruba themselves begin to parody the same thing, that is when it gives me depression. Or let me say, that's when I'm concerned. I can understand any other person trying to take advantage in telling you this is your story, but then shame on you when you begin to believe it yourself. So the issue of Lagos has been something in the last, maybe say the last 1 year or so, that at least that I've been seeing it. A lot of stories there. Let me give you one remark. There's a gentleman who is currently doing a film on Yoruba in diaspora, Brazil, Lagos. And the person was telling me something about a year ago about Lagos. That Lagos is the way it is because it's the first capital of, well, the second capital of Nigeria. And I said, no. I said, strike that out of your script. He said, why? I said, well, if the capital of Nigeria was in Calabar, or is in Calabar, or the first capital was in Kano, it would not be like Lagos. He said, why? I said, because the history of Lagos preceded the history of Europeans. I said, because history of Lagos cannot be removed from the history of Yoruba urbanism and the Yoruba idea of cosmopolitanism. I said, that is what gives Lagos the flavor it has. That's why Kano cannot be like Lagos. Calabar cannot be like Lagos. You cannot understand Lagos outside its Yoruba foundation. And what we call Lagos, what people confuse is Aleko with the entire Lagos state. Okay? Aleko is not, well, it was called Lagos by the Portuguese, and eventually we transfer that name to the entire state. It is like saying that Osogbo is the equivalent of Osun State. No, it's not, right? The same way that Ibadan is not the same thing as Oyo State. So I don't want to go into the details of that, but I think there are many stories being told today that is simply not accurate. But because the Yoruba themselves, some Yoruba people themselves, seem to have divorced. They don't know and they don't care to know. Of course, it's easier for them to buy all those kind of stories.
They have Nigerianized, Professor.
Okay.
They become Nigerianized. Is the word that we point for them.
Good luck to them about that. So Lagos is Lagos today because of the foundations that people Isheri people Oshodi. Yes, Oshodi is Tapa. But we can't talk about the history of the Yoruba without bringing many Nope became Yoruba. Don't let us forget that. Many Nope became Yoruba because a society that is accommodating, that brings other people in, that's what will happen. The same way today, I am a citizen of Nigeria, I'm a citizen of the United States, I can vote in the US, I have every right in Charlotte, every right in North Carolina as a citizen. I can be the governor of North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, if that is my ambition. So that is the same way that the Yoruba approach other people, okay, in their history. So that openness, I think, is problematic now, partly because of the way Nigeria has been tribalized. Okay, Nigeria remains a tribalized space. The Yoruba are not tribalized. But some people they don't realize that we are in a national space where other people have other priorities, and somehow we think that we can Yorubanize Nigeria. Oh, sorry, you cannot do that. It's not going to work. So, do you want to then Nigerialize Yoruba? Well, good luck to those who think that it should be the direction. You know, you cannot Nigerialize, you cannot create. Well, let me put it this way. The survival of Nigeria, and this, I'm not talking politics now, I'm talking strictly academic stuff, okay? When you look at the history of Nigeria, the Yoruba have played a big role in making sure that Nigeria stays as Nigeria. Basically, the sacrifice has come mostly from Nigeria to stabilize. So, has come from the Yoruba to stabilize Nigeria. That is academic stuff. That is political science stuff. When you look at the history of the country. So the question is, at what point do you begin to lose yourself in order to make other people happy? You know, that is the question I would throw out there. Let me go to your second question, which is what are the things to focus on to decolonize us? Well, two things to focus on in Yoruba history is how did we create societies? I think we can learn a lot about how Yoruba ancestors create societies, how they create communities, how they build communities. Their art and of governance is very important for us to begin to rethink what we are doing today. Their system of governance is very important, which makes this forum very important. The theme of this talk very important to the present and future of the Yoruba, of people and other African peoples. The Yoruba art and style of governance is important that we have to pay attention to. The second thing is our technology. Our Yoruba indigenous technology is very important. So when we are rethinking how to teach Yoruba history, I will encourage history teachers to emphasize these two items. But once we're able to figure it out, how Yoruba organize societies and how we create technologies, then other aspects of history will be exposed and will be revealed to us. So those two things, I would say that we should pay attention to them. Because when you look at even in a very recent or contemporary Yoruba history, you will realize that the advantage that the Yoruba region had over other areas are those two things. Our art of governance in the early post-colonial period marked us out as a people who are going somewhere. Also, our emphasis on technology by creating industrial estates, emphasizing production, not consumption. Nigeria is a space of consumption. It's a space where we just buy and consume. That's what we do in Nigeria. In Yoruba space, it is production. But because the Yoruba did not think about, we took it for granted, right? We made a mistake in not counteracting what happened in the 1980s when structural adjustment program that was pushed to us by Babangida basically decimated many of our industries. Look at the early Yoruba industrialists. Almost none of them had university education. They had elementary and high school education, and they created industries from Ijebu-Ode all the way to Lagos. They were our first, all these Kuku and many other people, Atlantic Carpets. But they only had high school education. They were building industries. Now we have college educated, all who are in business. All we know to do is build hotels and then to import stuff. All these Okoyas of this world, they were industrialists. They are still industrialists. They did not have more than high school education. But the structural adjustment program decimated that. And now all our children can do, who do not have, even those who went to college, they drive Okada or they drive bike all over the place. So these are some of the issues that I think our ancestors already laid the groundwork for us. If we can connect ourselves to that history, we may be able to know how to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. And to buttress your point, when I was looking at some literature the other day on the talk, and they describe like the whole Abeokuta region as almost like a city of indigo, because they had, it's an industrial estate whereby they produce massive amount of adire that is marketed throughout the whole of, it looks like West Africa all the way to the Sudan.
Yes.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
Now we have these people, our people now, some people are buying some cheap materials from abroad, selling them in Lagos and say, well, we built this place because we're selling all this stuff here. So just like you said, it's as a people, we have a lot we have to reemerge, what is the word? I don't know. Anilati Itaji. Anilati Itaji. And thank you. That is why this space is created. That's why the organization is created. Is beyond Yoruba sovereignty. Because after the sovereignty, we need something that's going to make sure that the errors of the past did not happen again. So I think I'm going to take a last question from our Akin Fale, is one of our members in Think Yoruba First. He's also a student of, he's an history student. I think he's almost done with his PhD. I don't know where he's at because he really wanted to talk to you, but he sent me a question back here. I don't see him on stage, and he was in the Zoom session before, but I think he left. He said, how can linguistics be used to understand and study Yoruba history and culture? He said, for example, one may connect the word lupo, to mix, with ilu, city-state, to confirm the Yoruba philosophy of a city-state being collaborative diversity. So I hope you get what he's trying to have.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for that question. For those of us who are committed to African history beyond colonial archives, we believe that we must use diverse methodologies to rescue our past from obscurity. And one of the methods that that is very important today, especially for those of us who do this kind of deep time history research, is historical linguistics, archaeology. Those two are very important. So his question is about historical linguistics. See, historical linguists study words, vocabularies, word sounds, and semantics. And we go about that in a way that allows us to even write about the history of a philosophy, of a cultural philosophy. You know, I think now I'm looking at it at his chart, and I think he posted something that how do we connect words like lupo with ilu?
Yeah.
Could
Exactly.
yeah, lu is to mix. Yeah, there's a kind of a semantic similarity here to ilu. Ilu is a mixture of different people. That's what ilu is. You know, ilu is a city, or ilu is a town. It's the mixture of different things. So I think Mr. Fala is becoming a historical linguist in a way here, and I will encourage him to explore this this possibility. So we can begin. So I talk about cosmopolitanism. It means to mix up diversity. That's what it means. So historical linguists, for example, in my book, what I did was I collected, there are these 105 words that they cannot be borrowed in any culture. They are always native to a particular culture. So what I did was I collected the sound for these 105 words from different dialects in Yoruba land, including Igala, including Ishakiri. In order to, and based on that, I was able to trace when different dialects split from the main source, and telling the story about how they split, I mean, when they split, how they split, is also a window to understanding the relationships that existed, for example, between the Igala language, and Okun or Owo or Ishakiri. I was able to reconstruct the history of kingship, for example. You know, let's take, for example, in Igala language, Oja. Oja means an open space, you know, and the owner of an open space is Onoja. Ono and Olu. Olu is an innovation of Ono. Olu Oja, Lord of the market. In Yoruba, that's what Oloja, Olu of the market, Lord of the market. In Igala is Onoja, Lord of the open space. Now, when you begin to look at those two words, what you realize that the person who control an open space eventually became the person who control a market space, because an open space became a site of market where other people come to, and the person who owned that place was able to collect taxes from the users of the open space. So you begin to see that the market was central to political evolution in both Igala and Yoruba culture, and therefore that such symbiotic relationship between political power and the market preceded the splitting of the Igala and Yoruba speakers. You see, so we can trace the market and political authority back to the period before 300 BC. That's just an example of how historical linguists work. We look at language to recover concepts, behavior, and many other things. So historical linguistics is very critical to my work because it provides another line of evidence, independent of archaeological evidence. When they converge, I'm happy. When they do not converge, I'm okay as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to promise to come back and talk about the Odoyo.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you to that. I will keep hammering the email. Thank you, sir. And one thing I wanted to, we should be able to end in about 10-15 minutes, if you don't mind, sir. Sorry I apologize for that. In maybe 2 to 3 sentences, what can you give us today in terms of Yoruba state formation practices that we need to be start to think about as we're thinking? And maybe you don't have to answer that question, but maybe people need to start thinking about it in their mind. That's one thing. Another thing is, what is your thoughts about the Yoruba people? Because when you look at Yoruba history, there is a common theme. I'm not sure if it's unique to Yoruba, but it seems to be a little bit more, has more repercussion for us as a people. The tussle, the power tussle, the leadership tussle, the resistance of the people to allow new order to emerge. I'm not a student of history as such. A lot of people said this is how it was in so many other great nations of the world. But when you look at us, it seems like we suffer a lot, like the consequences that came upon us because of our people inability to support. Typically, leadership is a problem for our people. When somebody emerges as a leader among the Yoruba people, you will see some other people, we go and, they will be fighting that person. They will refuse to cooperate with the person. And they do it to the detriment of the future of the Yoruba, the rest of the Yoruba. And at the end of the day, if they are successful, they will destroy that person and then put us in hundreds of years of suffering. Because even in this small gathering of little organizations we're forming here and there, it's still happening. In this small organization, even Yoruba of today that has traveled the world, you will still see that is it genetic or is there something? Like, what is the thing? Does it have to do with Oduduwa and Obatala? Or what do you think it's costing it? Because for me, I understand that to be a good leader, you must be a good follower. I'm borrowing this from my very close friend, Mr. Femi Akinshola, who is the manager of Think Yoruba First. It seems our people just don't like the idea. Like now, Professor Ogudiran is rising up. He's done all this fantastic work. He's respected. We see some people, maybe smaller ones that are just coming. They should wait for their time to. I don't know. Maybe there's something you can tell us historically that will help. Relocate that. And I think the last thing I'm going to say, the first thing, somebody sent me a question, why is Ishekiri, Igala, and Fon are not part of Yoruba Commonwealth or something like that? That was their last question. So all those three, you can take it bit by bit. We'll let you go and rest.
Thank you so much for those three things. About this first part, what can we learn about Yoruba state formation practices in terms of Think Yoruba First agenda? I'm not a member of Think Yoruba First, as you very well know. You've brought me here as a scholar to share my work. I respect what you do. I have my own opinion about certain things, and when I'm speaking about opinion, I'm speaking about scholarship. I always make people aware about that. So I think all I can do as a scholar is to share my work with the public and let people use it the way they think is best for themselves. So I've given this lecture. I think there are some things that people can take from it that can benefit whatever their political agenda is, instead for me to dictate how they should use it. So
I think more for Yoruba people in general, not really for our organization.
Yes,
but,
yes.
As the Yoruba, let me frame it another way.
Okay.
Yoruba nationalism movement, the people, all the Yoruba people clamoring for Yoruba states.
What can they start to use now?
Well, all the people who are clamoring for Yoruba state, first of all, they should pay attention to Yoruba history, to how Yoruba built communities in the past. For them to realize that they cannot sit in Ibadan, they cannot sit down in Lagos and make declarations about Yoruba people. They must never make the mistake to think that the Yoruba people only live in Nigeria. They must never make the mistake to think that the Yoruba people only live in Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, Ekiti states, and forget the Yoruba people in Kwara state. Forget Yoruba people in Kogi state. By the way, the Yoruba ancestors came from Kogi state. So if all they know is Ibadan, Lagos taxes, they don't know what the Yoruba people are facing in Igbeti. They don't know what they are facing in Igboho. They don't know that many Yoruba land in the past, Yoruba ancestral land, is now under other people's control. Then what they are doing is they are just a textbook, or let me say, not even textbook. They are just deluding themselves. They need to get into those rural areas and learn about how the Yoruba build networks among one another and with other people. I think that is one thing that they can hopefully benefit from my book, is learn about how their ancestors built networks 1,000 kilometers without any vehicle, without any bicycle in those days. Building network as far as Timbuktu, as far as Gao, building networks as far as Kano. They need to think about that so that they don't use their own space as the beginning and end of the Yoruba people. Let me go to your second question. I'm not trying to evade your your question. I would prefer Yoruba nationalists to use the book the way that is best suited for themselves. Yoruba people leadership also, it's a disease. Yes, it is a disease. But it's a disease that used to have its own value. That the Yoruba don't want to be a slave of anyone. They don't want to, they just want to do their own thing, right? We've taken that to another level in a kind of a colonial education, whereby you are taught to fend for yourself and you don't care about your neighbor. Yoruba people used to care about their neighbor. They used to care about other people around them. But nowadays, we are individual-centric. We don't know the value of leadership anymore. And everyone thinks that leadership is something that you just get into. You and I know this. We live in the US. We know that leadership is a hard commodity. Institutions invest a lot of money in recruiting, in hiring leaders. Yeah. Leadership requires skills, experience, and every person thinks that it's easy to be a leader. It's not. It is not. And when we have those people who have skills to manage, I don't want to mention names here because I don't want to get into the politics of contemporary Nigeria. We need to learn under individuals. Let us think about those individuals and learn. We may disagree with their individual politics, but we should learn about how they have done it and figure out how we can do it better. But we can only do it better when we build on the foundations that those leaders, like Olori, See, Awolowo, when it was, I mean, now Awolowo is dead, Akintola is dead.
It's gone now.
You know, we know the kind of tussle between those two. So we can talk about them because they are textbooks. I mean, they're in our books already. We've analyzed them and everything. That is one classic example of how the Yoruba suffered terribly because those two leaders were not able to come together. Likewise, Abiola's case, we know that what happened to Abiola might not have happened if the Yoruba people were able to come together. But we know that there are some Yoruba people who were against Abiola becoming president of Nigeria, and those people became the conduit for the propaganda that was coming from other people against Abiola from other parts of Nigeria. So it's like history repeating itself over and over and over again. Well, we know the consequence of that as well. Who suffered the most at the end of the day? Again, the Yoruba people. We should realize how much inch of Nigeria we lose every time those events happen. We should think about what we've lost and why today many of the ancestral Yoruba land where I do my work in Oyo Ile area, why they are now being taken over by non-Yoruba people. You know, our people in Lagos, in Ibadan, they have no clue what's going on in those areas. You cannot build a Yoruba state, Yoruba nation in Lagos and Ibadan. Don't let us deceive ourselves. Go to these remote areas where our Yoruba farmers are suffering. They are suffering. They are suffering. And they are running away because there's nothing there for their children. They know there's no future there because our people are just sitting there in Lagos and Ibadan talking. They are not paying attention to those areas. So, and therefore, we need to reach out to build bridges across the River Niger to our Igala brethren and sisters. We are together. We belong to the same, what I call Yoruboid civilization. Of course, I think our Shekiri neighbors know for sure. I mean, if they don't say it openly about their Yoruboid ancestry as well, in language, in religion, in everything. I mean, you know, even in names, there's no doubt about that. So this bigger vision of Yoruba must include the Shekiri. It must include the Igala people. It must include our people in Benin Republic, sorry, as far as Togo, the Atapames, where they themselves are suffering as ethnic minorities in those countries. And no one is fighting their fight. No one is fighting their fight. So there's work to do, but the only way to do it is to have knowledge. And that, I believe that's why you have organized this platform, to have knowledge of history, to be able to address the challenges that we have. But with good knowledge, I think, and with determination and good leaders, I think we will achieve what we seek out to achieve.
Thanks a lot, Prof. I think you've covered all the questions, including, you know, the Shekiri questions and all that. You know, what you said now, it just hit me really badly. That, you know, while we're busy in Ibadan and Lagos, the real damage is going on.
It's going on.
And those lands are being repopulated by some other folks, and to even make the matter worse, we see people rewriting history right while we're here, and they are networking. The networks that our ancestors were able to build, we are not able to. Don't let me say we're not able to, but it seems like we didn't learn those skills.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me say something. I'm sorry I don't like to interrupt. Let me say something too. And what we are saying here is we're talking about history, but there's another dimension to this, which is social science. see, we don't have leaders who use data to make policies. Data should think about, to project into the future. Now, how many people know that the Yoruba are the slowest growing major ethnic group in Nigeria today? How many people even talk about it? That the Yoruba are, we are not growing at the rate that Hausa, Fulani and Igbo are growing. We are not. Why? Because we just want to take care of ourselves, which is good. We don't have children in the same number. I'm not saying that we should just go and start, having children. That's not what I'm saying. But in a democracy, your number is the source of your power. And if your population is not growing at the rate that other groups who want to swallow you up, if your population is not growing at that rate, then you are going to become minority. So the challenge that faced us actually is not that we're going to lose our language in the next 25 years. In the next 25 years, we'll be the third smallest, we'll be pushed into number 3, number 4, because we are not growing. And we are already seeing the impact of our population stagnation. We are already seeing that in all the peripheries, all those areas that I just referred to, Igbeti, if you go to Igbeti today, you will think you are in Sokoto. Okay?
Yes, I understand it. Me.
See, so where our population is not declining, but we are not growing at the rate that will allow us to maintain our legacy.
Go on, sir. Finish.
So see, that is a problem that we have to think how to confront it. Again, I'm not saying that we should start having children, but it should be part of the conversations among Yoruba elite, among our leaders, so that we can use statistics to actually think about Yoruba future in Nigeria or Yoruba future in the world. No one is talking about these things. So we are making pronouncements without evidence, whether it is statistical evidence, whether it's social science evidence, whether it is historical evidence. We make statements without evidence. And that is one of the drawbacks of our agenda. An agenda that is not based on accuracy of data is going to be problematic.
You're totally right, Prof. You're totally right. It's funny you're mentioning all this, because I'm going to invite you to come and be part of us in Think Yoruba First. I'll reach out to you because Think Yoruba First is essentially a think tank. The organization is full of technocrats. Beyond the petty social media banter, that's not really what the organization is meant for. It's way deeper than that. A lot of the things you mentioned here in the last part of it, we've talked about these things. Let me use the United States as an example. We know what's happening in this country. The rise in nationalism, the conservative movement, the change in the Supreme Courts, and these things were informed by data. Mm-hmm. People may not like it, people may not like it, but the reality is that the people that look into the future of the country and ensure the survival of their people, they make decisions based on data, and they use this data. That is their own IFA to foretell the future. Mm-hmm. They use those data to maintain their majority. Because that's the only way you can survive in a multi-racial country, to still maintain, to protect your interests. There's not a lot of things we can say on here because, people misinterpret words and things like that, but everything you said is right on point. It's right on point. While we're busy, while you're sleeping, my brother Ifadari spoke earlier. He used to talk about marginal gains, how people are gradually making gains in Nigeria while we're losing. which is what you said, that every season, every cycle, we should think about how much of our space we lost. I think you used Nigeria, but I think you meant Yoruba land.
Yes.
How much of Yoruba land we actually lost with each cycle.
Yeah.
As each of our, the battle between Awolowo and Akintola, we lost a great deal of our land.
Yes.
We had the battle between MK Abiola and some people that were in the shadows.
Yes.
That were against him, and they like to emphasize his inadequacy as opposed to what is important, which is the survival of their people. After Abiola lost that battle, Yoruba was the one that lost.
Yes.
We lost some of our foes, or the people that are trying to swallow us. They gained a lot of grants. We are in another cycle now, and we already know what's about to happen. The question is, how much do you lose and still continue to say that you hold a critical, that you're important? I think in about 30 to 60 years, that is my projection, without any, really solid data. In 30 to 60 years, we'll find ourselves in the minority. And the equation will change. The power structure will completely go away. And at that point, you're consumed. That's essentially what it is. So thank you, Professor, for your wisdom. Thank you for your knowledge. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming. I think everybody, I am going to sing a song from the Hold Action Group. And that song says, Lagos belongs to the West. Lagos belongs to the West. Àwọn òpònú aláìlérò kan sọ pé Gedegbe lè kó wa. Lagos belongs to the West. The key point there ni àwọn òpònú aláìlérò kan. Let's think about that. Thank you, Professor. And, I will reach out to you. Hopefully we can talk some more.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody, for coming. Are, do you want to say one or two words before Prof leave the house? If you can speak. I see you have a mic now. I think he's actually was trying to speak, but we can't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, go on, sir.
Yeah.
I
greet you, Professor Muki Lumari Baba. I am really, really lucky to listen to you today. I've listened, I've been in the audience. I am the president of Think Yoruba Force, and everything you said is just exceptional and amazing. There are some three things I would like to quickly point out. My own inference from what you said. And I think the reason why I'll be saying this publicly is to all Yoruba people that are listening to me. I'm talking about the people that are Yorubas at heart, Yorubas in their minds, in their consciousness, and in their soul, to listen to me. I also take this from the inference I had made from this lecture. Number one, any civilization and any people can be wiped out. There is nobody that is invisible. When we hear songs like Irana Ba Yoruba, it is a lie. Yoruba land can be wiped out if this generation do not do anything. That's number one. Am I right, sir?
Yes, you are correct. Yes.
Secondly, you said something codedly, that Yoruba people are the only people who will cut their nose in order to please outsiders. They will destroy their own, they will destroy themselves in order to look good in the face of outsiders. We are people that we care about the emotional bullying of others when it comes to protecting Yoruba interests. The destruction of Yoruba land is not because some people are killing us or because some people are destroying us. I think it's because we are not intentionally self-preserving of our space, of our land, of our if we don't change, our extinction is certain. Number 3, there is also something you said as regards to the politicians, the political class, the technocratic class, the nationalist class, the traditional class of the Yoruba people. There is a disconnect. Yesterday, I was on a platform where I and some other nationalists from different ethnic nationalities were speaking. There was a German that spoke for the Jaw people, defended his people. And right in the audience, there was a man, because of 2023 election, that was busy rubbishing the Yoruba people. His fellow Yorubas. He was in a complete Yoruba attire. And he was rubbishing his Yoruba attire, fellow Yoruba people. And these same people, they will go to another platform to tell Yoruba people that please vote for Yoruba man because it's a Yoruba interest. But when it comes to self-preservation of the Yoruba people, you come up to publicly destroy it. And I told him, and I think I spoke to his audience because he disappeared from uttering those gibberish. I said it's like something is mentally wrong with some of our people. You see, the German that you call a minority, coming together to stand. This is a politician like you, and publicly defending his people, saying that he's Topolo is you're talking about that militant. Nobody should call Topolo a militant. He doesn't care. That is his Yoruba. He's following German. He's going to defend it. Why are you self-destructive towards another Yoruba man publicly? Because of politics, politically? Why are you doing this? He could not talk. And I told him, I said, you are still going to come and say, we the same Yoruba people to come and vote, the Yoruba people to come and vote for Yoruba interests. Then you destroy Yoruba people at every given time. Is this not self-sabotage? Is there a cognitive dissonance? Like our people are meant, I'm sorry, something is wrong. It's like it is a race destined for destruction. I'm not joking, sir. And when I spoke, people talked because he knew what I was saying. Brothers and sisters listening to me, this is what Pop has told us good baby. Pop will not speak the way I speak. Anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, internet, one-on-one, on ground, in church, in mosque, anywhere you see your fellow Yoruba man destroying Yoruba history, civilization, lands, interests, do not look the other way. That is how God here. If the Badawan lords that fought against the Fulani people in 1840 look the other way, they will not be Yoruba land now. No. Don't look the other way. Stand there and defend your people. This is the time the gentility, I'm talking the other cheek does not work anymore. People that are ready to swallow us are the people we call our fellow countrymen in Nigeria. I even saw a local man claiming that the whole of Lagos belongs to them on Twitter. And he had thousands of likes. People retweeted it. We are in a stage, Prof said something also. My fourth prophet, I wrote down a lot of things. When people want to take over, dominate you, when people want to control you, and when people want to destroy you, they will rewrite your history, turn it to a propaganda in order to control you. Those who continue to write lies in order to destroy your history, as regards to your heritage, land is power. Your language is power. Everything, those are your culture, is power. Those that continually twist it, destroy it, slander it, they are not doing it out of ignorance. They have declared war on you, my fellow Yoruba people. This is the reality. Because we are not here just for academic. We are here because after the academic lecture that we receive from professor, we have to adapt. Because this is data. Data is also is a kind of information that we just got today. We now adapt it to our lives. How are we going to ensure that our great civilization, just like the way we were producing glass in a unique way, in a different technology, we lost it. And how did we lost it? Maybe some of the technologists then, the scientists then, that Prof mentioned, they did not do what was needed to be done. Please, we are the most vulnerable, one of the most vulnerable ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. Because we are the only people are writing their history every day. They will write it. It doesn't matter. No one gives any respect for us. So please, this is not forget. This is about your people, your land. This is not about friendship first. We don't hate anybody. Please, I beg you, because I have to talk passionately to our people, so that when they leave this place, they will not go back to their cocoon and continue the destruction of Yoruba land, so that we don't end up in the museum. Because that is where we are going, with our behavior, with our attitude, and with our actions. All man to himself. All man to himself. And what the professor said is what some of us already knew about the population of the Yoruba people. I said it, Dr. Buka, when you Dr. Professor and other people here, when I said it many years, few weeks ago, I said monogamy should be banned in Yoruba land. Many people came for me. Have you forgotten?
No, you remember we're going to have that room. No, remember we're going to have that room. And, even Akeugbago said it recently.
You are one of people that were saying, oh, no, I have to call you out. I said we have to ban it. Because I see the data. I hope we survive for the next 500 years. I hope so. As a race, as a people. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Dr. Book, for calling you out. I'm not calling you out. But this, what I heard today, is part of what we always know. That this is a race. This is Yoruba people are a people that are almost going into extinction. They are almost going into extinction. And how are we going to go into extinction? The Yoruba people will destroy themselves. Especially the youth of today. They are ready to do the damage. Mm-hmm. You see on Twitter, they will say, Oduduwa, Oduduwa and Shiri. They also talk, they use Oduduwa for all sorts of cool. And you say, what you wrote is good, it is bad. They will say it is cruise. And you see close to 1,000 likes on that comment. Look at the people that liked it. Many Yoruba people with Yoruba names. So we are in trouble. We are in trouble.
It's a matter of emergency.
One last thing, sir. I said something, you didn't answer that question very well. I sent that question to Obìnrin Àkànṣe. The question is this. Those that call the people like Oduduwa, those are our heritage. Or call them Nigerian purposefully in order to destroy our history. Because once our history is destroyed, we are conquered. I think it's the cultural appropriation, and it's a big offense in Western world, especially against indigenous people. Do you think we have any chance if we take a legal route to make examples of such people? That's my last point, sir.
What about money?
No.
It's an important question, sir. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But what I will say is this. Rather than putting emphasis on legal aspects, I think we should put emphasis on educating our young people.
Exactly.
Our young people, for whatever reason, they are gullible. And we have done a bad job raising them. And we are suffering. And we are going to suffer more if we don't begin to focus on them. Because the children of yesterday are the ones that are becoming Obas today.
Yeah.
And you see the way they behave. They behave in ways that are not dignified of a commoner, not to talk of a king in Yoruba land. Right? Because we've done a bad job raising them. When the Yoruba king, for example, is wearing lawani, what do you call it?
Yeah, lawani, no.
Yeah.
Oh, the Jamori.
It is obvious that person did not know what some people, it's obvious. He didn't know what they did
Sacrifice.
to repel people, sponsored agents of the caliphate. He didn't know what to do to repel them and to secure Yoruba land in 1840. That if he had known, he would know that he would realize that he will not be occupying that position, and he will not be called the king of Iwo.
He actually said the Emirate.
Well, yes.
Emirate of Iwo.
Well, no, I don't think the people of Iwo accepted that. So wait, I know His Royal Majesty. I know him, and I've had the privilege of him hosting me in his palace. I didn't go there to talk about this, so I didn't bring it up. If you wanted me to come and talk to him about it, I would be glad to talk to him about it. So, but he's a public officer, so I can talk about him publicly because he's a public man. He's the king of the Yoruba king, so I can talk about him publicly. So I think we've done a bad job in raising some of these people, and we are suffering for that now because, and I want to emphasize this, that the danger we face is not coming from across the Niger. The danger we face is already embedded in Yoruba land. And we should be careful about propaganda. Some of our neighbors are very good at propaganda. And we are so gullible. Because our educational, perhaps because of our educational system, we don't teach critical thinking anymore. So everything that is posted on WhatsApp or whatever you call it, YouTube or Facebook, people just accept it as the truth. Our people just accept it the way it is. They don't know how to think that this is just propaganda. This is just lie. This is just wrong. So we should please let us figure out a way to emphasize on, to focus on these younger people so we can begin to redirect them. And I think our efforts will be better served instead of trying to litigate someone saying that Oduduwa is Nigerian. Let them say that. Let them believe it. But when we begin to believe it, that's when there's a problem.
Thank you. You can't say it better. Thanks a lot, Prof. I think, you said go back to the community, go back to networking, use those routes. Remember you're losing ground. Remember who you were. Your ancestors were great people. They formed great nation, great states. Despite being cosmopolitan, they were structured people. Mm-hmm. They were intelligent people. Yeah. They were technological people. They were spiritual people. All the elements of what you see today in the great countries of the West, we have it.
Yeah.
And we need to resolve our internal strife. That thing that makes us to lose. We need to restore it quickly. I think in about 30 years, it will be 100 years of us losing ground. We should not let that happen. We shouldn't let it happen. We will continue to do the education. We will continue to do the outreach. We will spend money where it needs to be. We will talk where it needs to be. And mo gbàgbọ́ pé Olódùmarè ò ní jẹ́ kí ó já sásán.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, we're going to end the space now. And thanks, Prof, for being here from the beginning to the end.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good.
Okay, Prof, you're offline now.